Dad, I need to tell you something. Her voice was soft and cautious, the kind you use when you're not sure the world will be kind back. It reminded me of the way she'd squeeze my hand when she thought her mother wasn't looking. I dropped my fork. The clatter of the plate echoed through the quiet that had settled over our home like dust, quiet we'd learned to live with, though it was far from peaceful. That night, I didn't let her finish. I called the police before she could even finish her sentence, because deep down, I already knew. It hadn't always been like this. When I met Elise, I thought I'd finally found stillness. She had a composed grace, the kind of presence that made silence feel like peace instead of punishment. And then there was Ivy, her daughter, 5 years old. Quiet, curious. Her eyes were always watching, always working something out behind them. I grew to love her quickly. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. 6 months after Elise and I got married, they moved in. That's when the silence changed. At every dinner, Ivy would sit in front of a full plate that never seemed to interest her. "Not hungry?" I'd ask. She would barely murmur, "Sorry, Dad." Elise always brushed it off. "She's adjusting. Give her time. She'll eat when she's ready." But that time never came. At first, I believed her. The therapist in me made excuses: transition stress, anxiety, normal adjustment pains. I convinced myself it could be fixed. But something never felt quite right. Ivy wasn't afraid of me. She was simply quiet, guarded, especially when Elise entered the room. If I managed to make her laugh, she'd glance at her mother like she was seeking silent approval. When Elise was out of town, Ivy became a different child. She'd sleep soundly, eat well, wrap her arms around me and laugh freely. That contrast was the first crack in the facade. It started subtle. I saw how Elise would tense when Ivy reached to hug her in public. How Ivy would wet the bed, but only on nights when Elise tucked her in. How Elise's business trips always came without notice. And how Ivy's energy would shift the second her mother returned. I began asking questions. Elise would always redirect, smooth, effortless, like a magician guiding your eyes away from the truth. She was skilled at misdirection, and even better at making me feel guilty for noticing. Then one night, I noticed a bruise on Ivy's shoulder. "What happened?" I asked. She froze. Then, after a pause, she lied, "I hid it on my closet door." But there was no closet door in her room. Only a curtain. That night, I stayed up, silent, alert, waiting for a truth I didn't want to believe. And it came. Not in screaming or confrontation, but in stillness. Elise was away again. Ivy sat curled beside me on the couch, fingers fidgeting in her lap. "Dad," she said quietly. I looked down at her. She swallowed hard. "I don't want to go with Mommy anymore." "Why not?" She didn't answer. I turned off the TV. "Ivy." She looked up and then whispered, "She hurts me when you're not here." I didn't ask anything else. I didn't need to. Those words came out slow and shaky, like she didn't expect to be believed. I kissed her forehead, stood, and picked up my phone. It wasn't just the police I called. I reached out to a lawyer, a child therapist, an old friend from college who now worked as a private investigator. I took photographs of Ivy's bruises. I recorded her words, small, scared, heartbreaking. I visited her pediatrician and requested records for every unexplained injury since Elise and I entered her life. I changed the locks. I installed cameras. And then I waited. Elise came back 3 nights later. She walked through the door like everything was fine. She kissed me. I let her. She smiled at Ivy. Ivy stepped backward. "Elise," I said, "we need to talk." She sighed. "What now?" I slid a folder across the table, police report on top. Beneath it, photographs, medical notes, therapist summaries. And finally, a USB drive with video footage of Ivy flinching when Elise reached toward her in the hallway. Her face didn't change. That's what chilled me most. Like she already knew this day would come. "You're bluffing," she said flatly, voice cool and composed. I stepped to the side just as the knock came at the door, calm, official, uniformed. "I told you," I said softly. She finally told me. The trial was brief. The evidence was undeniable. Elise tried to negotiate, claimed she was overwhelmed, under pressure, never violent. But Ivy's recorded voice shattered any illusion. "I don't want to go with Mommy anymore. She hurts me." Simple. Devastating. Now, Ivy eats dinner beside me every night. She talks, she laughs. She dreams out loud. Sometimes, she still asks if Elise will come back. I always tell her no. There are moments when I still hear Elise's voice in my head, smooth, convincing, laced with poison. I have to remind myself, not all monsters roar. Some of them sing lullabies. I used to ask myself how I missed it, how I allowed someone so manipulative, so cold, into our lives. But monsters wear many faces. And Ivy, my Ivy, learned silence as a survival skill. She doesn't need it anymore. "Why'd you call the police so fast?" the officer asked that night. Because when a child finally breaks their silence after years of being unheard, you don't wait. You don't hesitate. You burn the world down if you have to. And you make sure that monster never walks back through that door again.